exam script. So you get marks for drawing on the case study. So the best way is to make sure you have the write-up of all these case studies, addressing all these issues, and so you're well prepared for your exam. But please do not bring it as part of the draft, because that would be unfair, okay? So don't bring, but you can bring something else as part of your draft for me to mark your essay style question. Okay, so only 3 case studies, and I think that is fairly simple. Okay, so the Deluxe calculation is not yet uploaded. I'm trying to make minor adjustments to it. Okay, change it from last year, so it should be uploaded before the end of the week. So please do not do calculations. Okay, it should only help in your understanding of case studies. Okay, so this is exactly what I've said, okay, which will be on Blackboard. I'll check, I don't know that I repeated it. Okay, now being specific about the topic, okay? So essentially, when it comes to TQM, I expect you to read your handouts, that's what that is emphasizing, your handout notes. And if you understand your tutorial very well, I didn't say if you memorize, because I'm not going to ask you, like I said, I won't ask anything except for those 3 case studies. So it's not about memorizing, but if you understand the concept behind that tutorial question, then you're ready to do any questions if you are tested on TQM. If you're not very comfortable, you can look at SEAL's book. Most of you know Management Accounting by SEAL. I didn't put a date because some of you have different versions, okay? So you can use that to practice. I think they have one problem there. You can, well, I think it also has an answer. Now, for every method, you should know the critique, that's the limitations of that method, and the benefits for all the methods. So you would see for all the slides, I would say that. Okay, so anyone can be subject to test. So one of the outcomes of this model is that you know how the potential, or what is positive about a method, and what is the limitation. And so you will be tested on that. But please realize that nobody is going to ask you in the exam, what is TQM? Okay, that's for year 1. So you're not going to be asked definition. A test of understanding of the concept is applicability. Okay? The second bit is your value chain. So most of you did your rather assigned exercise. Okay? And so I'm expecting you to read only your handout notes. That is sufficient in itself. Like I said, don't bother about the case study. Okay, so your exercise, rather, if you have not done the correction, go and practice the correction. I had last year put up Cavendish as an exercise, and I think the answers are already up, so you should be able to find out whether you're that good. If you're testing yourself, I would say do it before you check the answers, okay? Same thing. Critique, okay? If you want more understanding, that's a recommended text. But that is the standard of the question, okay? So it's not your daily pack. So the next one is theory of constraint and relevant notes. And what I'm saying directly is that your tutorial questions and handouts are sufficient, okay? I have also uploaded, I think I did that last year, a tutorial question. I have uploaded the answer as well. So if you want to extend your understanding, okay? If you're struggling with relevant cost or the concept, please go and look at any book or your 1 note to get 2 notes. Please, you do not need anything more than that. Okay, so I'm emphasizing that. If you're happy with all this, then you're fine. So I think you only have one question, one main question in your then you have your tutorial P&Q and your practice question. That's sufficient. If you understand the concept, you're fine. Nothing more than that. I don't play people, I'm not going to try and trick you, okay? So it's as plain as that. It's more of testing your understanding. Now, in terms of ABC, okay, you did offer, and to me that's sufficient. Like I said, do not look at the case study, okay? So slow doesn't count. So your articles and handouts are sufficient. There was one bit I pointed out last year, which was the hierarchy levels, and there was a practice question on that, which I will show you again here. I said, please ignore it, okay? The notes were not clear, and so it will not be included, okay? So the notes were clear, so please ignore it. And I'll go through your handout part just to re-emphasize it so you know what I'm talking about, okay? So essentially, if you go to your handouts, everything we have done on ABC, all the calculations, okay, that should give you, if you know all of them, you should be fine. I put up an article here some seconds ago, okay, I think most of you have copies of it. If you don't, you can still download it, okay? You have the practice question there as well, okay? For those that were not clear regarding the handout, okay? So you can also practice with that. That is sufficient. If you're struggling with the concept of ABC, you can read through it, okay? Nothing more than that. The next one is target costing and life cycle costing, okay? So still the same emphasis, trial and SNIT, okay? Your tutorial questions are the standards. Your handouts is deemed sufficient. Do not read outside your handouts, okay? But if you're struggling with the concept, then you can use this recommended textbooks, okay? For, like I said, for all techniques or methodologies being taught, you need to be able to talk about the benefits and the critique of the techniques. And if you look at the past exam question already uploaded on Blackboard, you see also examples of questions, exam questions as well. Okay? Is there anybody that does not have access to Blackboard? So IT is fine. Okay. Now, EBC and pricing, okay? So we did two variations of pricing in terms of our tutorials. So that's it, Test Ticket and British Airways, okay? Handoff is the one you're going to do and present next week, okay? So for calculations, those are the standard. So I said that for, you should not use the EBC Deluxe, okay, as your standard for calculations, okay, in terms of exam preparation. Handbook, you have done your exercise on Easy Air, so that is sufficient, okay? It doesn't get any harder than that if you were tested. Okay, this is for pricing, okay? This is not for EBC, okay? The recommended text. Now, somebody, I think I got a feedback from one group that said they were not clear on the EBC notes, the extra ones, okay, that were given to you. So, if you look at the slides I've uploaded, okay, I've tried to put notes explaining the slides, okay? So, at least when you're reading, you would be able to understand. I think it's only one, it's supposed to be 3 slides, but I don't have the hard copy. This is a soft copy version of what? But I've tried to explain the lecture on Blackboard, on the slides, okay? Now, the one we're yet to do, or go to, is EVA transfer pricing. So the 2 calculated questions are EVA and transfer pricing. Now, standard of question for EVA, unfortunately, is your case study. Okay? So we don't have any EVA, what do you call it? I don't have any EVA question that I think best describes the scenario than your case study. So I'm not saying do not memorize the figures, but understand how the figures come about, okay? Just like you're reading the case study. But for the transfer pricing, read is fine, which is your tutorial question. We all know balance scorecard, there's no calculated question there. Okay, in terms of what I expect in your calculations in exam, if you round off, if you use 2 decimal places, I don't care, okay? So there's no add, mark, deduct for rounding up. I'm not really bothered about it. I know it was an issue in 2NA, but not what. That to me is not a concern. But what I expect is that, for example, if you have figures, you're giving out your figures, and they say comment in your answers, you explain your figures, okay? Or if you have figures that you feel are strong, just put one line, okay? Explain it. It shouldn't be more than one line. If they say comment, then 2 lines is fine. That's all. Nothing more than that, okay? But however, if we're talking about simple questions, if the question is really complex, then you can extend to 3. But I don't want to see 4 or 5 lines. It's too much, okay? And it's not a good use of your time. So the average is 2. Okay, if your handwriting is big or you can't really put words succinctly, please use 3 maximum, okay? Usually, I won't expect you to write comments on your figures, okay? But where you think it's necessary, only use 1 line. Or if you're asked to, then 2 lines, no more than 3. Now, please show all workings. Some people, like for example, when you were doing value chain, we put the final figure, and I'm wondering where did the figure come from? Please do not do that, okay? Show all workings, okay? So without the workings, you don't get the mark, even if the marks are correct. So if you see a question that says 10 marks, divide it by 2, that is 5. Meaning that you should have a minimum of 5 points, and so you should go for 6. If you can push it and you want to you can go for 7. If it's a 12-mark question, that means you divide by 2, minimum is 6 points, but if you want an 8, go for 7, 8. Okay? So imagine each question, if it's a discussion, will give you at least 2 marks. Okay? And if it's not a strong answer or a weak answer, it could be 1 or 0.5. So you want as many points. So you need to count your points. Now, this is the pattern. And when you're told to discuss, describe, or explain, I need a strong essay. Okay? Not the type usually present that is like a 1-line thing. A very strong essay. So if the standard mark is 2, and you just write 1 list, you probably get 0.5 out of it if you decide to list, okay? So you need to provide a strong essay. Where you see the words describe, discuss, or explain. If the question is a full question that on its own, then you should be thinking about 1 full page going to the next, okay? If it's a question that says briefly explain, comment, or list, that is when you have 2, if it's briefly comment, then it should just be 2 lines, okay? Except on exceptional situations is 1 line. List is 1 line, okay? That is a list, 1 sentence, okay? But comment, I expect 2 lines, okay? If you have time, try 3 lines, it wouldn't hurt, but please put space of paragraphs so that we can see what you're doing, because you have 80 scripts and you have a time limit, so when it's easier to see, it's easier to mark. I know some people complain about my terrible handwriting, which is true, but imagine if you're marking someone's terrible handwriting. The more depressed you are, no matter how you say I am unbiased, you are human, okay? You would appreciate somebody's better handwriting and discourse than when the writing is a bit rumpled.